This is something that happened on my 18th birthday. On the day of my birthday, my friends called me and asked me out to celebrate. They had prepared a surprise for me. Despite feeling a bit worried and uneasy, I was looking forward to what they had arranged. Ultimately, trusting in my friends and with hopeful expectations, I went alone, carrying a mix of anticipation and anxiety. However, upon arriving, it was silent all around, and there was no sign of my friends. Perhaps they were late, or maybe this was some sort of prank they had arranged. Regardless, I decided to wait inside the hospital. But the moment I stepped through the ominous doors, the old door suddenly shut automatically, trapping me inside. In that era, automatic doors were a luxury concept, and even the most ordinary doors needed to be pushed open by hand. This sudden anomaly made me seriously doubt if this was just a prank by my friends, or if something more terrifying was waiting for me. As I ventured deeper into the hospital, various ominous sounds began to emerge, from whispers in the distance to faint footsteps behind me, each sound tightly clutching at my heart, making me quicken my pace. Yet, no matter how fast I walked, that uneasy feeling always lingered. Finally, when I reached a crossroads, I mysteriously chose the right path, clinging to a sliver of hope that it might lead me to an exit or to my friends. However, as I turned the corner, the sight nearly stopped my heart. Deep down the hallway, there were two figures, one clad in a tattered doctor's coat, the other draped in an old nurse's uniform, both with their backs to me as if engaged in some dark ritual. Their clothing was not only filthy to the point of being black, but also carried a nauseating stench of decay. The most terrifying aspect was the sharp, large knife in the doctor's hand, seeming to have been tainted by countless tragedies, and the nurse holding a syringe filled with some dark liquid. In this abyss of despair and fear, I fell into complete panic. I realized that I was not in the middle of a simple prank, but had fallen into an indescribable nightmare. I had thought it was just a scary joke from my friends and was even happy about it. When I approached, laughing and asking if it was them, the two suddenly turned around, and the knife and syringe charged at me. Even if it were a friend's prank, it would have been frightening in that situation. But upon closer inspection, they were not my friends. They were strangers, an unknown man and woman. The situation turned urgent when I was cut on the left hand by the knife. I immediately turned and ran, screaming until I saw my friends coming towards me. They were holding a cake, singing a birthday song, seemingly the surprise that led me here. But when I told them about what had just happened and showed them the wound, they were shocked because they had not prepared such a surprise. To prove it, they played a video which showed me running scared, but I was alone in it. However, when I ran past a mirror, not only did it reflect my figure, but also that of the doctor and nurse chasing me. Seeing this, we immediately fled the abandoned hospital, vowing never to approach that place again. Indeed, it was the most unforgettable birthday surprise of my life. This happened during the summer of my junior year of college, an experience I will never forget. At the time, I was studying and working part-time jobs, one of which was at a bar near school. Many classmates worked there too, and we quickly became good friends, often going out together. One time, while Mike and Zoe were over at my place having drinks, Zoe suddenly suggested we should explore some famous haunted houses. We had had a bit to drink, and going out for a walk seemed like a good idea to clear our heads. So the four of us, Mike, his girlfriend Ivy, Zoe, and I decided to go have a look. Mike, Ivy, and I drove in Ivy's car, and Zoe followed us on an electric bike. We arrived and parked in front of an abandoned hospital. It was a 3-story white building, peeling and graffiti covered, with broken windows everywhere. We joked that encountering stray dogs here could be scarier than ghosts. Stepping into the lobby of the abandoned hospital, the first thing we saw was the reception area, its dereliction and decay a direct assault on the senses. Papers were scattered everywhere, and various sizes of debris grew like weeds in every corner, the former cleanliness and order completely forgotten. The reception desk itself, once a place to welcome countless patients, now only offered empty echoes and the dust that silently told its stories. The hospital lobby stretched down corridors on both sides, the left leading to a series of treatment rooms and the right marked with signs to the canteen and shop. In its heyday, this layout might have been bustling with life, but now each direction exhaled a breath of decay. Driven by our desire for mystery, we chose the left corridor, hoping to discover some unknown secrets. As we moved down the corridor, the treatment room doors were ajar, providing an unnerving sense of anticipation. We mustered the courage to enter one of the internal medicine rooms. At first glance, it looked as though it had been abruptly abandoned with medical tools scattered on a table as if doctors and patients had just stepped away. A deeper look only offered disappointment. Aside from disarray and silence, there were no traces of any real disasters that had occurred. Feeling slightly let down, we decided to explore the second floor for the unknown. Surprisingly, the second floor was utterly different from the first. It was unusually clean and tidy, with no piles of trash or graffiti. The cleanliness gave an uneasy feeling, as if some force was deliberately maintaining it. This contrast added a mysterious veil to our exploratory journey, as if the second floor hid some secret, waiting for us to unveil it. We illuminated the corridor with flashlights, finding patient rooms on both sides. We chose the right corridor and began checking each room. Suddenly, I noticed something odd. All the room clocks had stopped at 2 o'clock. I checked my watch and the time was exactly 2. I alerted the others to my finding, but they dismissed it as a coincidence and didn't think much of it. However, as we continued exploring other rooms, we realized it was true. All the clocks were indeed stopped at 2 o'clock. Now feeling scared, we decided to leave. Just then, we heard distinct clicking sounds, like high heels on the floor, from the other end of the corridor. We exchanged glances and immediately started running. As we fled downstairs and out of the hospital, the footsteps didn't stop. They grew louder instead. Getting into the car to leave, I felt the vehicle tremble as if something had jumped onto it, and I yelled at Mike, "Hurry up!" Mike started the car and we left the hospital parking lot. Worried about Zoe, who was alone on her electric bike, we soon saw Zoe's bike zip past our car side. Relieved to see her safe, we were resolved that everything was going to be all right. Back at home, the blinking light on the phone's answering machine caught our eye. Pressing play, the timestamp was precisely 2 in the morning. The same sound of high-heeled footsteps from last night followed. Then a hoarse woman's voice came through, "I'm going to kill you." Upon hearing this, I felt sick to my stomach, my body shaking uncontrollably. Just as I was about to cut the message off, the phone rang again. I picked it up timidly, and it was Zoe. He told me in a shaky voice that he too had received a terrifying voicemail message when he got home, a female voice claiming she was going to kill us. But the most shocking thing was that message had been made from my house. Back when I was in middle school, four friends and I went on an adventure to a local abandoned hospital. Standing at the entrance on the first floor, we could already feel an unsettling, eerie atmosphere. But at that age, we were full of bravado and liked to boast about our courage. I said, "It doesn't seem like a big deal. Seems pretty easy." Hearing this, we all mustered up our courage. With that bravery, we entered the desolate hospital, filled with uneasy premonitions like each step was testing the limits of our fear. The air inside the building was laden with an oppressive stillness that made our heartbeats notably evident against the quiet backdrop. Floor by floor, the loneliness and silence differed, with empty rooms like black holes, concealing secrets unknown to man. Our boldness led us to explore upward, briskly checking each room, but no sign indicated anything out of the ordinary had taken place. All seemed calm, yet a foreboding feeling inside grew stronger. At last, we reached the rooftop. Its wide-open view and piercing cold wind allowed us to breathe a sigh of relief. On this secluded and creepy rooftop, someone proposed we capture the moment. We huddled together, struck a pose, planning to freeze this adventurous memory. But the camera's shutter button felt like it was fixed by an unseen force, stubbornly refusing to close. An unusual silence enveloped us, with an air that seemed pregnant with lurking energy. My heartbeat quickened, not from fear, but from the excitement of unraveling the unknown. After multiple attempts, the shutter finally snapped. The camera's flash in the pitch darkness was glaring. We thought it would just be a regular photo, but when we looked at the screen, we were horrified to find an abnormal detail. In the picture, next to the door leading to the rooftop, stood a woman's blurry silhouette in white, silently standing there, as if she had abruptly stepped from the mists of reality into our world. Screams shattered the rooftop silence. Our courage collapsed instantly, replaced by primal fear. That ghostly image of the woman lingered before our eyes, and we no longer cared for adventure or mystery. We just wanted to escape this place filled with the unknown and terror. We scrambled back to the stairs, descending amidst panicked breaths and heavy footsteps, until finally, we stood sweating and panting on the street, hardly believing we had escaped that nightmarish hospital. Later, we sought the help of a friend's father who was a medium. After examining the photo, he turned very serious, performed a cleansing ritual for us, and sternly warned us never to return there. If we did, and the entities noticed, something bad might happen. After that, we all stayed safe. I smoothly transitioned to high school and never visited any haunted places again, living a peaceful life. Until one day, an older schoolmate with whom I was quite close mentioned that he and his friends were planning an adventure to an abandoned hospital and asked if I was familiar with the place. I immediately realized he was talking about the same abandoned hospital we had once visited. So I advised him not to go there, but it seemed he didn't take my warning seriously. A few days later, I ran into the schoolmate at school. He told me they indeed went to the abandoned hospital, from the first floor to the rooftop and even down to the basement, but nothing happened and it wasn't scary at all. Hearing him say that, I got goosebumps all over and broke into a cold sweat because that abandoned hospital didn't have a basement at all. This is a story I experienced in a hospital located in the northeastern United States where I resided. It's a place not as famous as the Nishi-san region of Kagawa Prefecture, but it too has its unique landscapes and specialties. However, back to the story itself, it was myself, my father, and my uncle visiting a hospitalized neighbor. The hospital had undergone a redesign a few years prior, donning a modern facade and welcoming the city with a new face. The renovated lobby was laid with shiny tiles, and a wall of glass curtain allowed sunlight to pour in, creating an almost luxurious sense of openness and brightness. This light should have been comforting, yet for some reason, when it reflected off the glass onto our faces, it gave an indescribable feeling of oddness. We were walking through the dimly lit hall, conversing somewhat recklessly in search of the elevator to the wards, until the gradually darkening clouds outside made the afternoon sunlight unclear. Our voices echoed too prominently in the empty lobby, compared to other sounds. Around the corner, we saw the elevator doors slowly open, and a lady in bright red entered, as if she was a warning sign between light and shade. We hastened our steps, hoping to share the elevator with the stranger in red. I managed to press the button to go up just as the elevator doors were about to close, and my father and uncle followed suit quickly. The doors, as if sentient, opened again to provide enough time for me to turn and apologize to the waiting lady inside. Sorry, just a moment. However, when the doors fully retracted, we were astounded to find that the red-dressed lady had vanished without a trace. The elevator was eerily empty except for our reflections trembling on the metallic walls. This scene tensed our nerves to their limits, the stagnant air in our throats making it almost impossible to breathe. The three of us were squeezed in the elevator, looking at each other, not daring to speak, as surprise turned to fear. The minute of silence during the slow ascent felt longer than ever. When we finally reached the floor with the wards, and the doors opened heavily, it was like the gateway to an inexplicable abyss. Stepping out of the elevator into the deserted corridor felt exceptionally eerie, and I couldn't help but ask my uncle, "Did you see that lady in red on the first floor?" My father and uncle showed signs of discomfort, seemingly trying to process what had just happened. After a silent moment, they both nodded in confirmation. Our hearts were filled with the unknown and unease. It became apparent that we had all witnessed the lady, yet how had she disappeared without a trace? Later, when we spoke about this incident with our hospitalized neighbor, a passing nurse overheard our conversation. The nurse smiled and assured us that everything was fine, that we must have been mistaken. Clearly, the nurse was just trying to comfort us. From then on, I would feel a bit fearful every time I took an elevator, always reminded of that woman in red. I shudder to think what it would be like if I saw her face. Would it be something frightening? To this day, every time I ride an elevator, I can't help but wonder if everyone I encounter inside really belongs to this world.